Good evening, everyone from India, and I'm Keshav Gupta. I have the privilege of inviting you all on behalf of the Dais, people of Impact, and all our partners, WhatsApp Youth, to the World Environment Day celebrations. This is such an important day that we have gathered today. I will just begin with first requesting everyone to follow certain house rules to ensure the smooth conduct of our event. So please do take note. The This event is being recorded as well as live streamed. We request all our participants to keep their mics off while the speakers are speaking. And we especially request you to use the chat option for queries and exchange of ideas. It's highly recommended because this is meant to be a conversation together and a celebration, not just a one-way dialogue. So now moving to this important day today, the World Environment Day. As we all know, that the World Environment Day is celebrated annually on June 5th and was started by the United Nations in the 19 on in 1973. This day is a very important platform for raising awareness on environmental issues that the world faces. I can spell them out, and it will we will probably reach Environment Day 2023, and the issues will still continue to be listed. But primarily, the focus remains on marine pollution, global warming, overpopulation, sustainable consumption, and wildlife crimes. The theme for this year's World Environment Day is Only One Earth, and this day, 2022 World Environment Day calls for collective transformative action on a global scale to celebrate, protect, and restore our planet. Now, I will briefly touch upon this was about the day, but who are we? So we are together, Humanity 2030. That is the Dais and the people of impact. So I will, and I have my colleague Miss Noha Hefni, who will be introducing people of impact in another just after me. But Humanity 2030, um, Humanity 2030 basically is a SDG lab that is devised together by the DICE and people of impact, both organizations committed towards youth leadership, sustainability, and with definite focus on climate action and gender equality. So. And finally, what we are doing today is that today we are introducing to all of you the Humanity 2030 Youth and Climate Action Awards, which is again a very big privilege for all of us to be introducing today. And we thought that it will be a fantastic idea to do that while celebrating the journey and also knowing the perspectives of some inspiring youth leaders who've joined us today, who will also be in conversation with Noha today. And then we will have our colleagues Dimiana and Jasmine, who will be presenting the details about the Youth and Climate Action Award. So I'm actually personally very excited to know about that. Finally, I think my only message to all of you is when you say only one Earth, that's also only one people and nature together. So I just call everyone to act on these issues and use this discussion today and all your next steps towards a healthy planet, which for all, nature and human beings and animals, everyone all around us. This can't be done alone. There is no planet B. So on that note, I hand over to my colleague and very, very valuable partner, Noha Hefni, the co-founder of People of Impact.
Thank you so much, Keshav, for the introduction and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from around the world. We are delighted to have you with us. And my name, as Keshav mentioned, is Noha Hefni. I am the founder and CEO of People of Impact. And People of Impact is really a social network and ecosystem to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals and to accelerate action by all stakeholders towards the goals. So, really, our mission is to ignite in every person their passion to become a force for good and to highlight the stories of people driving impact every day and everywhere, and those who take it upon themselves to really make a difference in the world and to tackle humanity's most pressing issues. So I'm delighted today to highlight one of these critical audiences, and the most important one in my personal view, which is the youth. The youth are taking it upon themselves to really drive change on sustainable development. And today's discussion is going to be looking at success stories of role models, young leaders who are accelerating climate action. We will be highlighting today the context of a changing climate and the increased insecurity and threats that it poses to our future. And with a population of 1.8 billion young people between 10 and 24 years old, young people are aware today of the risks presented by climate change, but also they are taking the responsibility to create solutions to address this urgent crisis. So I really call on everyone to support the three brilliant young leaders that we're hosting today for this discussion and to join me in welcoming them. So I would like to welcome Belinda Ning, and she is a youth leader for the Act for Food, Act for Change campaign. Welcome, Belinda. And next, with me, joining me today is Simarna Singh, social entrepreneur and international keynote speaker on sustainability. Welcome, Sim. And last but certainly not least, Neda Jamal, program manager, Tears of the Earth. So thank you all for joining me in this discussion today. I am delighted and honored to be able to moderate this panel, and also thankful for all of the people who have joined us from around the world. So without further ado, and in the interest of time, as we will be closing at the hour specifically, and we'd like to give a lot of time for discussion and Q&A at the end, I'd like to start the panel. So the first question is really to all of you. And I would like to start by asking you to tell us more about yourself, your story, and what specifically inspires you to act on climate change. Why did you choose this SDG 13, as an area of passion? So let us start with Belinda.
Yes, happy to. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hi, everyone. So my name is Belinda. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, but I came over to the United Kingdom to pursue an undergraduate degree at the University of Cambridge studying geography, and I'm now currently in the middle of my master's degree studying environmental technology at Imperial College London. I'm a youth climate advocate, but more specifically working in the field of sustainable food systems. So my passion is very much in looking at how food systems can play a role in tackling SDG 13. And the main inspiration for that for me came from a decade of volunteering in remote rural farming communities in Guangxi in China, where I was able to witness firsthand the impacts of heat waves and varying rainfall pattern changes and the impact of that for food security for the communities there. And agriculture is one of the most, first and foremost, affected by climate change because of just how reliant it is on these natural, like environmental factors beyond, human control. And so that is my biggest inspiration for what I'm doing now, because I'm reminded of all the people that are very much reliant on and interconnected with the environment in a food system.
Thank you, Belinda. Over to you, Neda.
Thank you for such a lovely question. First of all, a very happy Environment Day to all of you. So my name is Nida Jamal, and my journey started with actually at college when I was doing my bachelor's in botany. And I was actively a member of our environmental society there. So we hosted out around like 100 Norwegian students over at Delhi University. And that was my first sort of passion arose in the area of sustainability and environmental protection, or areas of like climate action that I wanted to pursue. So we had quite a few interesting discussion around the same topic. And then from then on, I went on to do masters in environmental health science and management. And then it was just finding right people and right opportunities, and finding things that align with me very naturally. And then I did my internship with Tears of the Earth, and now I'm working as a program manager. And specifically, if you're talking about SDG 13, for me, it is like we are looking at providing solutions which are actionable. So for me, the whole story or the pursuit of this climate change, providing solution for climate change, we have to specifically look at climate action, because we sort of conclude everything here. So it's such a critical step. That is why I'm interested in it, and I'm engaged with a lot of like grassroots mobilization, doing engagement with a lot of youth organization. Yeah, that's thank you.
Thank you, Neda. And last but certainly not least, Simarna, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Lovely to meet you. Little bit that I'd like to first start my introduction with is to thank people of Impact, the Dais, Ms. Noha, for the opportunity to be here today. A little bit about me. I'm 24 years old, so definitely still youth. I've been involved in sustainability for about 5 years now. Had a couple of hats as a social entrepreneur, but also the opportunity to consult and manage sustainability for larger corporates as well. To answer your question, really, I think there's two things that make me super excited to be involved in SDG 13. Firstly, that it's a very pressing issue, and if we don't act now, our future generation, so basically our kids, will face the repercussions, and we already see it happening in our lifetime, right? And secondly, it's the ability to make a difference. And I think as an individual, that really satisfies me. It gives me a kick and a reason to wake up every morning. And I believe that no one is really too small to make a difference, and every little action adds up. So that's how I would answer the question. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, as you've heard from all these brilliant leaders here with me, they are solutions oriented. They are full of passion and belief that they can make a difference. So, my next question will go to Nida on why is it important to involve young people in addressing climate change, and what value do they add, and how can we organizations, people, adults, really tap into their full potential to realize progress on this agenda. Over to you, Nida.
Yeah. So I think if you're looking at the age spectrum of people we classify as youth, it's such a tender and malleable age that people are so open to ideas, different ideas, and trying new things. So I think it's very critical in the sense that the the way youth is able to see the world, which is very different to what adults usually perceive. So we do have that perspective, which is very different from others, like other members of society who are much more likely to be confirming the society standards. And personally, I think as Simarna and as Belinda already mentioned, that we are going to face the consequences of all of like the climate change. And so it is a sort of like we are thinking about our own future. So it just makes much more sense to lead these problems and these issues, and to not just globally but as well as like locally. And if you're looking at youth, we do have that energy and the capacity to create change, in the sense that people are more like they are more resilient at such a young age, and also we have the ability to recover easily at this point in time. So obviously you can try out new things. And in terms of like providing opportunities from different stakeholders, I think access to different resources, education, also listening to their perspective actively, and engaging in different discourses like discussions that we are having right now, it's very very important. And then also lending your expertise, in the sense giving them direction and supporting them in different capacity as much as we can. Yeah, so that would be my answer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nida. And, today and tomorrow is all about the youth, and they will make up the majority of our workforces in the future. And they are the catalysts, as you say, for innovation, for driving solutions, and the resilient ones, the disruptive ones. So I couldn't agree more with you. And I want to move over now to Simarna and, to talk about one experience you had, which is you were part of a youth delegation at COP25 representing the Ministry of Climate Change in the UAE. Can you tell us more about this experience?
Yeah, definitely. I probably was very, very, I mean, one of the few rare ones who was selected. I'm very grateful because I was not Emirati, and I was honestly very, very privileged, really, to be able to represent the UAE Youth Delegation with the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment under the flagship of Mastar. So from an experience standpoint, I think it's very natural to feel confused during your first 2 days. I actually could not follow multiple of these tracks when I initially went. The conversations have been taking place from previous COPs. So if you are, not really involved in the previous COPs or understanding it, of course, it's very, very high level and detailed. And I think that that's a bit of a challenge. But I had the opportunity at the same time to attend some of the closed door negotiations, understand really how policy takes place, and how governments are really driving this agenda to their respective countries. And I think that was very, very eye opening for me as an individual, especially if I've never, because I never witnessed something like this. Um, but for me, I think what was the most exciting part of the session was that the ones that really spoke about action, and that was where they would actually take the policy and drive it down to a respective industry. So, for example, I had the opportunity to attend one that was related to just tourism. And how climate action is being driven for tourism or for hospitality, and how it's driving down to hotels and how they're actually making impact. And I think that for me, I mean, coming from business background, it was a very, very easy to connect the dots and understand really. And I think that's how you make the maximum impact. That's when businesses are all involved, because otherwise it's very, very, it's only at a policy level, and then there's limited that as individuals or as businesses you can do. Yeah.
Wonderful. So let me follow up on this question as well and to ask, how did you make it there? How can other young people make it to COP? And over and above, to complete this question, Egypt is hosting COP27 this year, and then the UAE COP28 in 2023. What role do you wish to see for young people at these major global events?
Yeah, sure. So I actually had the opportunity to be part of Mastar's Future Sustainability Leaders program. It was the first year that they ran it, and they were giving the opportunity after you complete an assignment. So I had to do one on the water, energy, and food nexus. And of course, if you have relevant recommendations that can be implemented to the UAE and you get selected, then of course you will be given the opportunity to have attended, of course, COP25. So definitely for anybody listening in, the Future Sustainability Leaders Program by Masdar is available to all countries. Highly recommend that you take the opportunity to be part of this. And to really answer your question about, COP27 and 28, I think the first thing that really resonated with everybody when we attended COP25 was that the UAE brought the largest youth delegation. And I hope that other countries really follow this, because they would come up to me and be like, "Oh, wow, you're from the UAE," and I'd just be like, "Yes, I'm representing them." And I think they really loved that, because there were very, very few youth that actually attended COP25, and we're so integral in these conversations. Um, and I think I'd like to hear more youth be able to voice out on the policies that are being made, because we are the next generation that are really going to be taking this forward. And to take this one step further, I think it's also important that businesses are also synergized with the public sector. And I think that was really lacking, which is why perhaps we have not been able to make as much impact, and maybe COPs have not been as successful. And since Gen Z has just begun their journeys, I think it'd be great for them to also represent these corporates. But if we're speaking more specifically, about COP27, and of course, Her Excellency Minister Rania also did mention, that she really wants this particular COP to focus on climate finance, especially after the rising food and energy prices globally, which is a challenge that everyone is facing. And she also did mention that she wants to shift pledges to implementation and action. And I think that is another way we can determine whether or not COP will be successful. So I'm looking forward to the future COPs that are coming up as well.
Thank you, and I really do hope that your call is heard with greater engagement from youth around the world by governments, by the private sector, and encouraging all young people who are joining us today to also join programs that they see organized by private sector entities and other stakeholders. So that we can ensure that their voice is heard in shaping and informing policies and programs relating to climate change. So now I want to move, and discuss a little bit more of a very practical, tangible, solution. Away from policies and conferences, but more into innovations driven by youth. So I want to ask Belinda to tell us more about her startup that she co-founded called Conscious Eats, and also tell us more about the aim, the impact, and how is it really, what are you aspiring to do through this startup to affect, climate change in a positive way. So over to you, Belinda.
Yeah, sure. Just before I answer this question, just on the topic of COP itself, there's another way for young people to get involved, which is also through Youngo, which is the youth and children constituency of the UNFCCC. And that's kind of how I managed to also get an opportunity to participate through and get involved in negotiations. So happy to share more on that if anyone has questions later. Okay, so back to answering the question. So yes, this is a very actually recent idea. It only came about 3 months ago, and it started over a conversation with some friends over dinner, which is that we were realizing that it's a lot of information overload and confusion about what exactly we as consumers have to do in order to reduce the environmental impacts of our diet. And located, since everyone was based in London, we found that, if we wanted to eat out at a restaurant, we didn't really know where to go. Like we knew there were restaurants doing very cool sustainability practices like sourcing locally and all that, but it felt like it was a very hard landscape to navigate. And so what Conscious Eats tries to do, it's a mobile app that aims to connect the community of climate conscious consumers directly to sustainable eateries in the city. So it's very much working in the kind of urban context. And we do that by offering a clear, comprehensive metrics and information on where they can go, and also how, for example, when they can make certain conscious choices when they're at restaurants to reduce their environmental footprint and be more sustainable. And in particular, it's a very young team of students that are creating this, and that's why we're also choosing to target young people who are very much the more as Neda has said as well, like the most aware of these different climate issues and how they interlinked in general with other key issues, for example, like food insecurity, which is also another pressing issue in the city. And so we're trying to do that through a more gamified approach. So for example, there's a point system, and we're currently working on designing the minimum viable product to look at what really helps to change these behaviors and change mindsets of young people and working professionals for the app. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sim, as well, you were managing a company called Coco Vida. And can you tell us more about that as well? And you created a network to engage business proactively in the SDGs in general. But I'd love to hear again your experience with these startups and companies.
Yeah, sure. So Cocoveda is a social enterprise. We actually started off in 2015. And I personally am very passionate about our journey and our story because everything is handmade by women communities in the Philippines who we upskill and train. And even though we are a Singapore brand, I think really being able to give back to the community in the Philippines really stands out for me as an individual and social entrepreneur, right? Similarly, we support farmer cooperatives in the Philippines who are below poverty, and we actually uplift them by paying them double the value of the fruit to acquire our main ingredient, which is the virgin coconut oil. And we use this particular ingredient along with plant-based essential oils to create a range of personal care, healthy foods, pet care, cleaning range as well. And everything is vegan and sustainable. And really, the reason we created this brand was to make sure that we're doing good for the environment, but also to help people actually use the brand that makes them feel that, hey, I've contributed to sustainability in one way, but also to make them feel very, very healthy, as well as, of course, to address any lifestyle concerns that they may have. And I think that's what really our mission was. But really, down the journey, we realized that not many people understand sustainability when we had started about 5 years back. No one had even heard of the SDGs, and businesses really couldn't care less, if I may be frank and honest about it, right? Corporates didn't even think of climate action as their top priorities. And maybe it was not, maybe the awareness was a little bit less, and I think the pandemic has definitely changed things. So we created an extension of Cocoveda called the Sustainable Relationship Partners. And this platform invited well-renowned speakers to educate the youth, private sector, and education sector as well on the sustainable development goals, but very industry specific. And I think that really helped everybody understand how they can apply it to their specific industries, but also how they can really take this opportunities or networks that they've built in these meetings that we had, and obviously you leverage on it for their future businesses as well. I'm very grateful. When I started it, I was about 19 years old, and I think that really helped me develop myself as an individual, to build relationships with people in the sustainability field, a lot of which who I'm still connected to today. It's kind of how I met Miss Noha as well, who's here today as well. So very, very grateful for the opportunities that I had in these fields.
Thank you. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with both of you about the importance of taking action, innovating for social good, advancing partnership and awareness. And this is a great segue to the next question that I have on education. And I'll start with Neda on that one. And you studied environmental health science and management. And Belinda, also, you are studying environmental technology. So I want to know, what are your thoughts on the education system of today and how your education is preparing you and inspiring you to take action on climate change? So, Nida, if you can start us off this topic.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of education, I'm going to speak from my own first person experiences, like here in India. I think the education system is not that flexible in order to for us to accommodate work. So there is always the theoretical knowledge, and then it's not very much supplemented with practical application of things. So there is a disconnect there. But I think if you're looking at like the whole pursuit of knowledge and learning, it's such a multifaceted pursuit. Like there is solitary learning, there is obviously like learning with peers and learning in a classroom setting or learning by working. So I believe that you are able to grasp more if you are uh, actively engaged in different projects or discussions. So we really need to remodel our education system in that, and also how we are able to link our own like courses to the career options that we have, and just not in the future like this at this moment, but also what are the future possibilities of such subjects. And at the end, I think the whole responsibility of education is to transform human beings into complete holistic. So it's we are looking at complete holistic learning. So for people to be critically to be open to different ideas, to reason well, to think critically, and to be emotionally intelligent. So a lot of these things are not really taught at like schools or in colleges, or never addressed there. So if you are able to take care of your own world, I think a lot of relationships are restored. Your relationship with money, your relationship with natural world, your relationship with other human beings, and obviously material things. So that is my perspective in terms of education. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'd like to open it to all on, what improvements you wish to see in educational opportunities to create future climate leaders and more young people like you who are inspired to take action. Because, as Neda said, we need more practical application, experiential learning. We need to link courses to the world of work, remodel, curriculums, etc. So these are all pertinent problems. But what can we immediately do, to create future climate leaders? And what should we tell educators in our world, and academic institutions? So, Belinda, if you want to take that.
Yes, sure. I've been immensely privileged to have had the chance to receive an education, especially linking to the climate aspect, that has really helped to empower me to take the actions that I have so far. So sharing just a little bit more from my own experiences, one part that really helped to change me was understanding of intersectionalities between different issues. I really resonate a lot with what Neda said about the need for holistic education, and the sense that in the climate context, looking at how, for example, climate change intersects with social issues, human rights, inequalities across different contexts. And I think what that kind of builds towards is a bigger systems thinking kind of approach, which I definitely think in such an interconnected world for education today, if we're talking about climate education, that's so super needed, for just in different contexts as well. And also I think another thing is to focus on diversity within the education system. So for example, in my undergraduate degree, I did a lot of work on looking at, for example, indigenous approaches to nature and their views on climate justice. And so that is something that's very different to, for example, the education I received in high school, which was more of a set format. And I think the value of a more fluid and dynamic education system is that it really changes your perspective on how problems can be approached. And especially if we are facing such complex issues, it's really important to embrace and keep an open mind. So I definitely think having these changes that I mentioned, so the system side of things, but also the diversity side of things would really be a really great thing to see in the climate education overall. But I mean, the bottom line is access at the end of the day. Like education and climate education in particular is still not accessible for so many young people in the world today. And I think unless that problem is tackled first, it's really going to be super difficult for anything else to happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd like to, we touched on awareness, we touched on education, innovation, and now I want to, move on to the role of the media. And when I talk about the media, I'm talking both traditional and non-traditional media, like social media and new forms of media. So again, Sim, this question is for you. We need the media to cover climate stories and to cover the stories of people, social innovators, who are driving change in their communities around the climate, but also all SDGs. So, in your view, what role does the media play in advancing climate change? And again, what changes would you like to see being driven by the media? And how can we, encourage the creation by content creators of more ethical storytelling and social stories? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think it's very important to share that like responsible media is so important in today's day and age. And I think everybody, who's joining us today probably agrees with that. Um, I think it's also extremely important because the media has access, and obviously has that broader network, that mass audience. So it drives multiple things. It drives awareness, it drives action, and also change. And I think that that's where responsible media is extremely important too. Changes wise, I mean, I'd like to share maybe a different side of media as well, maybe the side that's not often spoken about, which is as a social entrepreneur, it's one of the things that I face that I might be doing impactful work, but sometimes it's just not enough because there are aspects of what is trending today, what should I cover in the media, what will get me the most amount of views. Do I have to obviously pay the agency to cover the story, right? So I think that creates limitations, especially for those who are doing great work and especially for youth, since this panel is really about that. And I hope that that changes because if we showcase what each of the young people are doing, I think it really also drives other youth to make such conscious decisions or other youth to really start their own business, for example. And I think that's fantastic. In terms of content creation, right? I mean, this really was a very big part of how I got involved in sustainability as well. I actually, after starting SRP, decided to just share all my experiences, the people that I had the opportunity to meet on social media. And I think that sharing their key messages or their key takeaways with as many people as possible on social media using the relevant hashtags got a lot of visibility because it's sharing knowledge for free. And I think that's what sustainability and the SDGs really should be about as well. I didn't come from, a sustainability background. I did not study environmental sustainability either. So a lot of what I've learned is from other people or on the job. And I think that's why I feel, to answer as well what Belinda shared, it should be accessible to all. That's kind of what I did. So I played the role of media in a way via my social media. So I hope that more content creators do that as well. It's not just about food blogging. There's other interesting and important topics that you can really cover on your social media.
So to build on that, to all of you, really, how can we encourage young content creators who actually constitute the majority of people on the internet, and to create stories about the SDGs and SDG 13 climate action? And how can we create a greater interest in environmental action and in sustainable development, basically? Because as you mentioned, they're interested in other things, fashion, food, etc. How can we shift that in your view? So, Belinda, if you want to take
Yeah, I'm happy to speak about this in the context of I also run my own youth-led podcast, and the main focus is on actually encouraging more high school students at that kind of age group to get engaged in sustainability. And I think one of the main kind of barriers facing them getting engaged in SDGs, especially SDG 13, is that they, first of all, don't really understand or know too much about the different topics. So that first level of like you don't really know means that if you don't have the innate curiosity, which not every single person at that age will have that level of curiosity, it's difficult to overcome that barrier. And second of all, there's also an element of they might have misconceptions or like, oh, climate action is just about this specific topic, but it's actually a very nuanced topic. And so I think, for example, in the case of the podcast, it's really about putting these people in direct dialogue with professionals, activists, young change makers in the space already. And when there's a chance to generate this conversation, there's like I've seen firsthand how the students just end the conversation. They're like, oh my gosh, that was so interesting. I didn't know that this topic was actually really relevant in this space. And it actually, from that process, they discover that there are certain SDGs that maybe they're more passionate about in that process. And it becomes not some big abstract concept or one just simplified idea, but it becomes very nuanced for them. And that's where they find their own voice and their own space. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Nida, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, actually, I would like to talk about project that I started with different partners, like Dais is a partner, Tears of the Earth Day Network, and other like indie stories. So we started a fellowship, which basically stands for Young Leaders for Climate Action Fellowship, and this was launched on International Education Day on 25th of January this year itself. And so this is targeting people from different age, from like 16 to 25 years old. And so the whole fellowship is divided into three phases. So there is a beginner phase, and then there is advanced phase, and then third phase is when you are basically creating tangible projects or taking up internships with different organization, our partner organization. So we basically curated a module, like the whole curriculum around the climate change. So first module was, what is climate change? What is the science behind climate change? What was the law behind climate change, and the community and society element of climate change? Also, we gave a like perspective of South Asia and global perspective. And then second module was role of different stakeholders in climate action. And third module, as Belinda also rightly mentioned, that intersectionality of intersectional themes within the climate action itself. So it's a very nuanced, very interrelated topic, and how each thing in this like ecosystem is affecting different or moving different things in different directions. And also then we had a module on introduction of climate solution and intervention. So it was quite successful in the term, in the sense that we were able to, as Belinda was also mentioning, that it was very hard for young people to understand these things in their own context, that okay, this is how we can also think about climate change, because it at times gets very overwhelming to wrap your head around the whole subject. So yeah, and now we are also working on phase 2, which is basically doing a more concentrated pursuit of the, like the first phase. So people are engaging in different like niche areas of their interest, and then hopefully in the third phase they'll take up projects and different actions. So yeah, this is how we were able to create some tangible impact through the initiative.
Wonderful. Um, I want to stay with Nida on, and to ask you also one question. I know that your passion is about women and girls, and women are half of the world. And the majority of people impacted by climate disasters are also women and girls. So I wanted to know, your perspective on how we can get more women engaged with climate action or engaged in science to enable greater action on climate change. So, if you can quickly share some thoughts, because I realize that we're running out of
Yeah.
time. I do
Yeah,
think
yeah, definitely, definitely. As you already mentioned, that women also constitute half of the human population all around the world. And even if we see historically in India as well, a lot of women have led different environmental struggles and movement, which is like if we are really talking about the land bark movements like Chipko movement, Bisnoi movement, and like different forest struggles that we have. So we could see that historically these local communities stood up and led the resistant movement of different like intervention done by government for like building dams or loss of habitat, or building or maybe like commercializing that space. And this is because not because these people have a PhD in, let's say, climate science. It is simply that they understand, they observe the role of natural world and different things that are placed and in natural world, and how they are interconnected, so they are able to comprehend different consequences. And also these communities are living very close to nature. So we do have that disconnect in urban areas. But when we are talking about indigenous communities, we are talking about different ethnic communities, they are much more aware of all of these things. And in terms of we are talking to really push women, we need to really understand the nature of society, because we already have this system of hierarchy in place in society, and climate change is only going to make these disparities and inequalities very severe. So at an individual level, we have the choice to engage in different systems, be it like like your contribution to policies, how inclusive those policies are. So I think we need to disengage on an individual level for any system of oppression that is in place. And we are talking about larger pictures here. Because if we are looking at climate change, we need to protect people. And if we are not able to protect people, we are losing this battle. So, and we need to have difficult conversation around like topic of health, like reproductive rights, and like workplace condition for women out there. So I think these all conversations are very important, and hopefully we are able to move forward in such conversations.
as you say, people are at the heart of this, and so I want to follow up with a question to Belinda on, how do we sustain our food and water systems, really? And I know that you've worked on some projects and you are passionate about the sustainability of our food systems. So, can you tell us more about that and some of the projects you worked on to address this issue?
Yeah, sure. That's a super challenging question in terms of sustaining
Yes.
the food system, because it is so complicated and there's so many different players in it. And so I'll share a little bit more about the Act for Food, Act for Change campaign, because one of the key ways I think it's successful is that it's really trying to get down to, as Nita said, like a very societal contextual level, where you're not just trying to tackle one big issue in one way, but getting down to actual context specific approaches in a decentralized way. So essentially, Act for Food is a global youth-led movement that started 1 year ago after the United Nations Food System Summit. And essentially, it's working to push for a shift towards more sustainable food system. And so what the exact components of that have actually been voted on by over 160,000 young people from around the world. And it kind of was condensed into top 10 votes. So for example, there's a focus on food education, regenerative farming, valuing indigenous food, healthy and nutritious access to diets for young people. And so the way in which the campaign operates is that there's 30 young leaders from around the world who operate in their specific countries and in their regions. So for example, there's a few people in the MENA region, Africa, Europe, everywhere. And so what we do is at the moment, because the votes have come in now for the key areas of focus, there's a focus on, like, each region will have different approaches, and it's really working, with local schools at a really grassroots level to tackle very specific issues. So I know one other youth leader who has done a lot of work with schools in India, mainly focused on healthy and nutritious diets. And so I think in terms of having that approach to really shift a whole food system, it's a very effective way when you bring in different skill sets. Like, there's social entrepreneurs in there, nutritionists, policy advocates, public health experts, and we're supported by GAIN. So that's the Alliance for Sustainable. I completely forgot what it stands for. I'm so sorry. GAIN stands for. This is so embarrassing.
Alliance of Integrated Nutrition?
Yes,
No.
correct. I'm so sorry. I just completely blanked. Yeah, so we're backed by them in the Food Foundation, which is also amazing because you have this science element to it. And so, yeah, that's kind of a key approach to really tackling food systems from a very bottom-up, youth-led approach. Yeah.
Great, and that brings me to the role of business. And Sim, this is directly in your area of experience, and we know that businesses have an important role to play in advancing the SDGs. Their impact also on the environment is significant, and therefore there is a responsibility and a priority for them to be engaged. So how can we energize the role of business to tackle climate change, and what do you believe as a young leader that businesses can do better, and how can we really drive more momentum to translate commitment that businesses have, because many are committed to advancing climate change, but how can we translate commitment into tangible and measurable action?
Yeah, I think this question is super important, especially for those who've joined us in the audience who are obviously part of businesses. I think the first thing that I'd share is put your mind in those CEOs, and obviously think what's most important to them. Obviously, their P&L is more important than anything else. So that's how I would start. I would choose the key and important matrix and objectives to them. So that would be perhaps saving money, positive marketing, and PR. And of course, last but not least, compliance, because they definitely don't want to get any fines, right? So I choose these three and obviously position it in that way so that there's great wins on making sure there's tangible impact, but also making sure that they meet their objectives. So for example, if you share with them that, by doing I don't know, this kind of a campaign, it would drive positive marketing and PR. It would ensure that your brand image is definitely different. At the same time, you will save money in the long term, just as one example, right? And I think soon it's going to be very mandatory for a lot of businesses to also report their sustainable impact. I do believe that it's coming because, I mean, in Singapore, for example, which is where I am at the moment, we've already started this with listed companies. And I do believe the government is going to start already positioning this to larger corporates and SMEs. It's bound to happen, right? So I think if you share that, if you become a world, one of those leaders against your competitors by positioning yourself for sustainable, tangible impact, and that will give you that competitive edge. I think it is likely that your CEOs or your line managers would be interested in this. But personally as well, I think an easier approach would be to be part of things like signatories to the UN Global Compact, being part of pledges to the WWF, for example, because these hold you liable, where you make actual commitments, and you obviously have to make sure that you're reporting that in a year's time or in a couple of months' time. And I think that's where I see businesses really take tangible initiatives and action. So it's a team effort, but at the same time, it would be great for more businesses to have, representatives on a sustainability spectrum as well.
Absolutely. I think it's a matter of business continuity and survival in the future. I don't believe that any businesses who will not put sustainability and sustainable development at the heart of their strategy, that they will be able to meet stakeholder expectations in the future, whether it be consumers, customers, suppliers, or investors. So I think it's a critical business case, and I believe that businesses are starting to realize that and trying to take action. And okay, so as we come close to the end of this session and really inspired by each and every single one of you, I want to ask you, because we do have a lot of impact creators in this call and people who are passionate about that. I wanted to know from you, how do you keep yourself motivated, in good health, and resilient to continue in your impact journey? And this is, we'd love to hear your advice for some of our youth here today. So let's start with Nida.
Yeah, so I just really want to honestly point out that this sometime like working in this area could get really overwhelming. So a lot of time I don't feel good, and I do fail. I feel very hopeless, but I think I do have a set of people who really look out for me, who really counsel me, and sometimes they are better equipped with doing that, and sometimes I am the one who's giving advice. So it's really just persevering together, I think. And it's just a testament to the fact that we cannot survive alone, and we all of us have a different place in society. And then yeah, just goes out to say that in terms of giving advice to youth out there, I think do not diminish the importance of the impact that you're bringing in. Even if you feel that it's small right now, it could be a platform for doing something bigger next time. And also, like, you cannot get overwhelmed by the amount of information or amount of problems out there in this area. Just find an area that you're interested in and start working on it. So that would be my advice as well.
Thank you. Belinda?
Yeah, I have to just echo what Neda said. Like, I completely agree that community is really important. A key way that motivates me is being surrounded by a community, both in person and online, a global community of young people. A lot of my friends right now just finished the Stockholm Plus 50 conference, and, just speaking to these people, learning their stories, that really inspires me a lot and keeps me motivated. And yeah, definitely take measuring the small successes. It's so easy to get really caught up in like frustrating long-winded meetings that don't seem to go anywhere with maybe senior executives on like climate action, or things that seems really slow, but looking at the small successes is really important. And I think my last key advice is like rest and slowing down and taking care of yourself. So many people I speak to in this field have mentioned they've experienced burnout at least once. And I think in the end, you have to be fit to give. And so that's the key thing, is prioritizing your own health and resetting and reflecting and recalibrating whenever possible.
Absolutely. And Sim, any advice on how to stay resilient?
Yeah, sure. I think it's actually just one word, which is passion, because that's what really ensures that you keep waking up every day. But I think I'd like to share something that maybe I've not shared in any other panel, which is there are many, many challenges ahead of you. Whether you're embarking sustainability or climate action as a new field, whether it's the fact that you're starting your own business, whatever it may be. I think perseverance, hard work, and most importantly, confidence is so important. And I think sometimes we forget that. I mean, even me myself, you know. And I think it's really the networks that you build, the relationships that you build along your journey, who really ensure that you keep staying grounded and confident. Um, Most importantly, feel accomplished and enjoy and celebrate your achievements, because we always forget to do that as well. I was reading a quote the other day that we remember our failures and challenges much more, because we constantly obviously live in that moment versus, you know, that one achievement that we have. So please celebrate yourself, even if it's something small.
So, thank you so much to all of you for joining us and really being some of the greatest speakers I've ever moderated throughout my 21 years career. It's been really my honor and pleasure. And I really mean what I said. You've been so eloquent, on point, making, you know, great examples. And I really enjoyed moderating this panel. And from everything you said, we can see that progress on climate change is, you know, on the climate crisis is slow, but there is hope. And this hope is really in all of you and in the future generation. And to move the needle on SDG 13, our call to action, the organizers of this event today, is really one action, which is supporting young people who are the leaders of today and tomorrow, and they will enable the progress that we need to see. And they are already aware, they are already working hard to realize action and to take action and to realize progress. So please support them through visibility, exposure, enabling their innovation, funding projects that they start, and enabling research that can again support what they are doing, and providing the tools that they perhaps needs to scale and grow. Because again, to close, I would say that partnerships is the cornerstone of success on any systemic issue, and a multi-stakeholder approach is needed. So calling on all stakeholders to support young people everywhere, giving them the voice and the platform to make a difference, not only on SDG 13 climate action, but on all the SDGs, so we can all see a better and more prosperous world. Thank you very much. And over to you, Damiana.
Thank you, Noha. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, incredible panelists. I echo Noha's comments. Amazing, valuable information, practical inputs that we can apply, and some great interest here to learn links and opportunities from some of the participants. Some great comments here. I don't know if we have time. We have a couple of minutes for a question or two. What do you think?
I think we have 3 minutes to close, so I would just proceed with the announcement.
Okay, sure. And so what we can do is, if you'd like to email info, I'll put in the chat here, info@thepeopleofimpact.com with any of your questions. We'll follow up. We'll be sure to follow up with any questions that you've asked in the chat, as well as any comments, and we'll share with the panelists as well. And so without further ado, I would love to share with you something you were not expecting and briefly shared at the beginning of this session. I would have the honor of announcing the launch of the Humanity 2030 Youth and Climate Action Awards, powered by the People of Impact and the Dais. The awards will give youth ages 15 to 30 a global platform to showcase their ideas, journeys, stories, and achievements related to climate action. There will be 6 different categories of awards, among them leadership, arts, academics, innovation, and community. And so to share a little bit, POI believes that youth and all other stakeholders have, like one of you panelists had shared, need access. There are gaps in the ecosystem that need to be addressed, and access and opportunities is one area where there was very little shown for youth. And so this award not only gives the exposure, but it also allows for People of Impact and the Dais to share with the winners and as well as participants any opportunities that will come and potentially support their work, their incredible work. And so I'd like to pass on the mic to Jasmine, who's from the Dais here, who will share a little bit more about the award.
Thank you, Dimiana. And it's a pleasure to collaborate with people of impact for this award. And I strongly believe that this is an opportunity for all the young people. As the discussions were happening, we were talking about how critical it is to involve the young people at this stage of time and come forward to address some very important issues related to climate change, because they are the future of tomorrow. So I would request, and as an organization, Dais has always supported the SDGs, particularly SDG 13 and the involvement of young people. We do trainings, we do programs to encourage youth and provide a platform to showcase their dedicated work towards the upliftment of the society and overall everyone. So these awards are an opportunity for the young people to explore such impacts that they could create for SDG 13, and really looking forward. I would request all the participants here to spread the word about the awards, and definitely share the word to not only your friends and network, but if you consider someone who can take over, who can participate in the awards, please nominate them or ask them to send their nominations, and as well as encourage these little activities through the youth. So thank you once again. Dimiana, over to you.
Thanks, Jasmine. And here are our social media handles. If you'd like to take a screenshot and share, follow each one of us. We'll be sharing the announcement with more detail about how to apply, what the criteria is and the background, and some exciting news moving forward. And so now I'd like to pass on the mic to Noha, who will close for us.
Yeah, no, thank you all for joining us today, and also to all of our partners together, the people of Impact and the Dais partners who made this possible. So I'd like to just express my gratitude to WhatsApp Youth, Tawazun Network, which means balance in Arabic, a network also driving for a balanced world, as well as Pupilar, which is a youth network here in the UAE. And I'd like to also pause here and also Lit Creative, all for amplifying our voice and spreading the invitation. And we look forward to more partnerships. And I'd like to hand over also to Keshav to thank also partners of the Dais who have supported our event.
Thank you, Noha. So, absolutely, to my deepest gratitude to all the speakers and all the partners. I think special mention to Abdullah for his incredible efforts today with the tech with us, and everything they did. We've also been joined by our STG labs from Sun City School, Guru Nanak Khalsa College in India, and Taj University in Afghanistan, and also our colleagues from Stanford University and the Gandhi King Foundation India today, who are also on call, along with Earth Day Network, who will also be partnering with us for the awards. So thank you. Over to you, Noha.
Yeah, and I don't know if Demiana mentioned, but the award will be posted on these social media channels. So please look out for that next Tuesday, and please do apply. You can self-nominate or nominate a team or a friend. We look forward to recognizing all the winners in Global Goals Week. So wish you all a great evening and morning if you're in another part of the world, or afternoon, and goodbye. Thank you very much.